Okay, here we are, week 156. 56, yes, 56. So, been a pretty good week this week. I've actually got off my butt and done some things. So, what have I done? I have done my auto water change, so that is finished. And I've also added another fan. So, if you look at that little bit of video, that just means I've got 3 fans in the fish room now. So I've got 2 large 20-inch fans over the tank itself, and I've got another smaller fan over the sump, and they are all connected to the apex. So when the temperature gets to, I think it's 25.5, they all come on. So the idea of I've added the extra fan this end really, because I'm hoping, well, 2 things really. One, that they will cool the tank with evapotranspiration, which is a nice way to cool your tank. Gives quite a bit of airflow in the fish room because it gets quite stuck in here. And I'm hoping it will mean I've got to run the aircon less, because that's expensive to run and the fans are cheaper basically. And the other advantage of running the fans is it evaporates more water off the tank, which means I can supplement that with more kalk saturated RO water. So I get a bump in my pH and my alk. Yeah, so that's all done. So I just had to change the way they're kind of wired in really, because I've had to put an extension, 7-meter extension lead to get from this end of the fish room for that fan all the way down to the other end, and then down into the apex. So it controls 2 sockets for these 2 fans, and there's a separate one for the one downstairs. So that's that. So that's all done already, because it's getting warm now. So like today, for example, I think it's 22 degrees out here. And the fish room's sitting at 26. That's up. This is an apex roof, so obviously the hot air, so it's warmer up there than it is in this bit. So it's probably 25. Tank's at about 25.3, I think, at the moment. So that is all good for the summer. So that's out of the way. I've still got to buy my Blauberg, never think what it's called, the heat exchange fan up that end of the garage. But I'm not that concerned about that, so I'll do that at some point. So the other thing is I have made my auto water change system. I've had it running for, I think in the last video I had it all kind of sitting in a bit of a mess, but it was working. So now I've finalised all the routing for the RO tubing. In the end, I was initially going to put the fresh salt water directly up here in the tank, but I just thought it'd look a bit, well, I thought it'd look a bit, I mean, it looks pretty janky over that tank anyway, to be honest. There's a lot of cable and stuff. I just thought it's another cable, and my main concern was if it gets knocked, because I was going to run it in like the back edge of the tank, and I thought if I move a cover off and knock it and it just slips off and either goes down the back of the tank or runs across the top, it's going to just pour water everywhere, and it's an accident waiting to happen. So I have got both the lines pulling the dirty water and returning the clean water coming out the sump. So I've pulled the dirty water from just where the drain lines come into the sump, and then I put the clean water into where the two return bulkheads are, so it pulls it straight back into the tank. Yes, so it works really nicely. So I buy this. So this is called, I think they call it Sanchoprine. Get it on eBay, buy it in 1 meter length. I think this is 8mm diameter. It's quite stiff, and it says it's used for, I think they say dishwashers and washing machines, I think is what it said. But I buy 1 meter of this, £13, and it works perfectly in that peristaltic pump. And I just chop 100mm lengths, and then I bought a bunch of connectors, which came in no, I can't find them there. Oh, yeah, look. So they came in a, so I've got all of them connectors and a big lump of silicone hose, which I don't really need. But that's a what do they call it? A windscreen washer kit for a car. That's it. So it's got all types of connectors in there, and it was like, I think the whole bundle was like a tenner or something. So it gives me, so basically for £23, it gives me lots of bits of peristaltic tubing to use when I need to replace it in the pump. So that part of it's quite cheap. So I mean, if you look at the video, so that's the pump. I think I showed the pump. I'm pretty sure I've shown it before, but anyway. So it's now up on the shelf. All the RO lines are fixed and run reasonably. For me, that's reasonably tidy. And the balance between the in and out is running perfectly. So I've done this before, auto water changes in my old tank, and I used the DOS dose. It works. DOS dose works for auto water changes. But one, they are very noisy pumps. The dose. I mean, I bought the quiet drives out now, but they are really noisy. So that was slightly annoying. And the other thing, which is even more annoying, is that they would just continuously go out of sync. So I was always, like every couple of weeks, it was either putting too much water in or taking too much water out. I had to recalibrate them all, and then 2 weeks later run it, and it was just, I just found it annoying, to be honest. So when I set this tank up, I was trying to think of an alternative way of doing continuous water changes. I've only just done it now after 3 years of the tank being up, because doing the water change is easy on this tank because the water's there, the sink's there, so it's just very easy to take it out and put it back in. You know, there's no lugging water or anything. And I quite like the interaction with the tank. So I still do manual water changes because I like to just get in there and suck out the detritus, but I do much less than I was. I was doing 300 litres manually. Now I will probably do not even 100 litres. I'll just go through, siphon it out, and the rest of it's all done throughout the week with the automatic water changes. Yeah, so I was trying to find a pump which would be more accurate, and someone contacted me actually on the forums and said, would I be interested in a Masterflex pump, peristaltic pump? Now I've seen these before in the lab years ago when I was a researcher, and they are silly money, but I got that pump. I got the body for, I think I paid £170 for it. If you look online, I think they still do them actually, and they are about, this is without the head, just the body itself is about £1,800. So no one's going to buy that new really to do auto water changes, but they do come up on eBay. So I've seen a few on eBay, and you can get an absolute steal if you get a good reconditioned one. So I paid £170 for the actual pump itself, and then the head, so that's a double head, was £380. So it's not cheap. I'm not going to say it's cheap, but if you think you pay 400 quid, well, I don't know, pay £400. I don't know how much a DOS is now. It's probably more than that, but it is kind of comparable, and it does the 2 lines in the one head, so you know you're getting the same amount of fluid travelling through that bit of peristaltic tubing. So that was why I went for it. So I've decided to put it up there on a shelf. Interestingly, I priced up a piece of acrylic. I can't remember what size it is. That's about 250 by 400 mil, something like that. So I went online, acrylic cut to size with the postage. It's like £42 I wanted, and I was like, seems a lot of money for basically it's a bit of plastic. I went on, I think that's Amazon. I bought a chopping board that it's sitting on. Cost me £2. That's with, I got a cent for that as well. So I was like, nah, that's a cheaper way of doing it. Yeah, so I just put it on some bracket, sits up there. It is very quiet, and it's turning at, it goes from the lowest setting is 6 and it goes up to 600, and it's on 12 and I think that's given me about 20 litres a day, I think it's doing. So yeah, so it's doing exactly what I wanted. So it always comes with a caveat. So even with that, so even though that's turning at exactly the same rate, 2 lines going through the one head on like deep rollers, perfect. Because the lines are different, they're different lengths, and they're pulling like one's pulling from the sump all the way up to the head, and this one's only pulling from here, which is much more level. So there is a discrepancy in the speed at which the fluid is travelling. So the waste was coming out slower than the new salts. Okay, so I just use a calibration tube and I just time it 1 minute on that, 1 minute on that. And I think there was a discrepancy of about 2 mil per minute. And that's obviously because the lines are different lengths and the friction within from pulling up and gravity is going to have an effect on it. So I fitted on the pool of the fresh salt water, I just put a little valve on, little ball valve, and I've just partially closed it, so it has to bit of resistance to pull through, and I've just calculated out, and now they're both running at exactly the same rate. So I would really not expect to have to change them at all. And for the last, I think, 3 or 4 days, the balance has been absolutely bang on. So I'm hoping that I can just leave that for months and months at a time, and it'll just tick on. All I've got to do is check the lines every now and then to make sure they haven't worn, and that's it. So it's on such a low setting, I'd imagine that would last for ages. I can turn it, if I turn it up, so it's on 12, it goes up to 600, and it will pump a litre a minute. It's over a litre a minute, 1.7 litres a minute, yeah. So I could empty that whole 300 litre drum in under 3 minutes if I had it on full blast. What's my fan? My fan kicking in. Yeah, so that is all done, all happy with that. I had my ICP test back. That's a Masterflex pump, by the way. That is a 7550, I think, that one. Yeah, so if you look at it, if that interests you in any way, shape or form, if you go on eBay and just look at Cole Palmer or Masterflex peristaltic pumps, you can pick up some absolute gems on there. You just got to have the room, and if you don't have the heads, they are expensive, but a lot of the time they're sold with the head. Yeah, so that's that. So ICP came back, everything is good other than there was lanthanum chloride detected in the display. Low levels, nothing to be concerned about really, other than the fact that I don't want it in there. So I have changed, so basically what that says to me is that obviously some of it is getting through my filter roll, because when they sell the roll, they don't give you, they give you a grams per metre squared as the measurement. So I buy the 40 grams. I think they might do a 60 gram one, but it doesn't give you a micron size. So I don't actually know what 40 gram equates to in micron sizes. And most people say you need a 5 micron size to catch the phosphate particles from lanthanum chloride. So I can only assume that some of it is getting through at least anyway. Because my thinking was I was dosing in my overflow, so it goes down the overflow through the filter roller, and then most of it would hopefully go into the skimmer intake and not into the tank, but obviously some of it is. So I have changed the dosing, so now rather than dosing in my overflow blocks, I'm dosing directly into my skimmer. It looks very, very DIY, but if you look there, you can just see a picture of the temporary setup. So basically it comes down and then has to go up and over the lip of the skimmer, and then it goes right down into the body of the water. So I will see. I don't know whether the peristaltic pump will have enough pressure to push against the water in the skimmer. So I don't actually know whether it will get out into the body of the skimmer or not. But my other thinking is possibly I can dose it into the venturi. So I could do exactly what I do with the ozone. Actually, I could fit a T-piece lower down just above where the silicone tube goes into the venturi on the pump, tee off, and I could dribble lanthanum chloride into that where it's going to get sucked in. Yeah, so I mean that works fine until obviously you can turn the pump off, because that pump, it's an external skimmer. The pump on the skimmer is only the venturi, and the water has to be pushed to it, which is from downstairs to the abyss. So if I turn that pump off and the abyss is still on, obviously it's going to push water back up that tube, which is not ideal, but I don't know how far it'll push it up. I don't know whether the seal on the Versa pump would be enough to stop it, but yeah, that's just my thoughts. So anyway, at the moment, I'm just trying to see whether it will work better. So I'll leave that probably for a month or so, just dosing into the skimmer head. I'll keep an eye on my phosphates and see how we get on with that. Yeah, so that's been it actually. Yeah. So very happy that the water change is done. I've run out of kalk, which is slightly, well, I didn't run it, I'm exaggerating it, I didn't run it, I used the last of it, and I thought I had another whole tub, and I don't know why, but I put my bag of citric acid in my old kalkwasser bucket, even though I wrote citric acid on the top, the label on the side still says calcium chloride, calcium hydroxide. So I thought I just looked quick and went, oh, I've got a whole 5 kilo tub there. And when I opened it, obviously it's citric acid. So I had to go and buy some out of a shop. So I was like, oh, that's a waste of money. So anyway, I've now got a 5 kilo tub from APC, I think, so I can't remember, APC I think it's called. I just bought it off of Amazon. 5 kilos, £32 I think it was. That would last me months, absolute months. Right, yeah, so that's I want to clean my kalk stir out actually, because I don't know, I'm just lazy or what, I don't know how other people do it, but I top it up probably every 3 or 4 days. I use these little glass ramekins, which you get nice desserts out of Marks and Spencer's actually. They come in a little glass ramekin. So I fill that up, 2 of them every probably 3 or 4 days, and all I do is I turn off the feed pump, which is a Versa, the peristaltic pump. I just turn it off. I don't even turn the stirrer off. I just lift it up. I dump 2 of them scoops in. I put the stirrer back on. I wait about 15 minutes and then I turn the Versa back on. So I do that. But what happens eventually is the stuff settles out in the bottom and you get a thicker and thicker layer, and then eventually the stirrer can't stir. So I came in last week and it just makes a lot of dull sort of thudding sound where it's like, I guess it's like a clutch or something in the motor which just jumps over. So I had to take it all out and clean it. It's not a big deal, it's just a lot of the time I just can't be bothered, so I just dump kalk on top of what's already there. I probably get 3 or 4 months, I guess. Might even get longer actually, can't remember last time I did it. But yeah, it's quite easy to clean out. I just bring it to the sink and then I get all the sludge out and then I give a quick wash with citric acid in there and put it back. So that was that. Yeah, so I can't think of anything else. Yeah, tank itself's all good. I think at some point I'll probably make my next video on a specific fish. Thinking of possibly doing the copper band. I need to have a look, see what's out there, because there's tons of videos on copper bands up there. So, but he's done really well, that copper band, considering what he's in with. You know, he's in with 17 very aggressive tangs, big old Lenardi Ras. So yeah, he's done well really. He's been in there 6 months now. Yeah, he's a really good feeder. Takes the food out of the column like the like the tangs do now. So hopefully they'll have a nice life in there. Coral's all good, clams are all good. Yeah, I can't think of anything specific on the tank. I don't think I'm going to be doing much to the tank really for the rest of this year. I just want to do some fish room stuff really, because this whole area over here, I've got one of those Evo tanks just sitting there like a shelf at the moment. But that whole thing needs to go, and I need to get a aluminium T-slot frame in there ready for the tank to go on. So I'll probably just slowly do that. I still can't decide whether I should just obscure. I was thinking I could just buy some white ABS board and just like run it along there, and then it will just block off all of the rubbish above the lights, you know, all the cables, and then I was just thinking, it's only me who comes out here really. So why am I doing that? And then if I want to get up there, it's going to be in the way. I've got to work out how to hinge it. And I was just thinking, yeah, I don't know. I'm always umming and ahhing whether I should take that out of my line of sight or not. But I probably won't, if I'm honest. Yeah, probably won't. Yeah. So I think that is it for this week, guys. I can't think of anything else. Yeah, so underwater changes, ICP came up, bit of lanthanum. Yeah, I remember the trace elements actually. So the ICP, you get 16 trace elements measured, and I had 12, which said I needed to dose. So I could spend an absolute fortune dosing trace. I mean, I dose trace anyway because I dose the tropic marron A and K. So I know there's trace going in the tank. Yeah, so I'm not inclined to act on the ICPs on the trace, to be honest. I think if I had issues, if I looked at the tank and I was going, yeah, I've got something's going askew, I would probably be a bit more concerned about traces, but I'm not. I'm dosing 27 mil a day of A and K, and obviously I'm doing the continuous water changes, and everything was good. My algae consumption's steadily going up, you know, week on week, so the corals are growing. So yeah, until I think I see anything untoward, then I just think it gets a bit manic. But I mean, I'd have to buy 12 bottles of trace and then dose them all. And it's a bit labour intensive, and it gets silly money really. So, like I say, I just do a blanket coverage with the A and the K. I dose 27 mil because I think 27 mil will last me. I think it's about 6 months. So yeah, I've still got that convict hanging here. He's a very annoying fish. I don't know if I'll be able to get him out at some point, but it just makes the life of the yellow tangs absolute hassle. He's got a proper slice down the side of him as well, which he's trying to scratch now. Yeah, so at some point I need to work out how to get him out. But I will probably dump him in the tank over there, to be honest, in the 5 foot one if I put it in. If I get him out before, I'll put him in a small tank downstairs. So I've got a little tamarin racing and a saffron goby. It's only 2 fish down there, so yeah, it's just getting him out. It's not easy. So, right, guys, I think that is it for this week. So I will see you in the next one.